every single place in the universe, even if you go into the distant galaxies, they're still operating the same law. The law of gravity is attracting each other. The sun is, there are suns there, there are bright stars there, giving out the electromagnetic radiations. The hydrogen ions are shrinking. All that light is being generated, but everything follows the same laws. So if you imagine the universality of the laws tells you that those laws are God. They are the consciousness. God is everywhere. Laws are everywhere. And laws are always there. They were there 13.5 billion. They're going to always be there. It's not going to be the gravity is going to disappear tomorrow. Whether you and I disappear, but the gravity is not going to disappear. So these laws are God. So the laws were also creation of the God. That's all built into it. So at the quantum level, things change though. All these laws disappear. Once you go beyond your large particles, in the small particles, everything changes. And one of the main principles of the quantum physics is the principle of uncertainty. Because everything in the Newtonian physics is predictable. Say Earth has certain mass, is rotating at certain speed around the sun. So in X amount of time, it will travel from here to here. You can predict very easily. Say, okay, it's all calculated. If you want to send the spaceship on the moon, then it will take, by the time the spaceship will hit the moon will be here. You can calculate exactly after 2 years, 2 months, or whatever, right? So you know exactly. But at the quantum level, the principle of uncertainty is the main principle. All your notions about the life shatters completely, right? At the quantum level, you cannot predict where you're going to find that atom, or the electron rather. The atom is made out of electrons, and then in the center is the nucleus, where it's neutrons and protons and all that, right? So now, the original model of an atom was, say, oh, it's like a solar model. There is a nucleus in the center with the protons and neutrons and electrons are going around. That's gone. That's gone now. Now the picture of the atom is nothing but a fuzz. There are no particles. Particles happens only when you observe. If you remember our two-slit experiment, do you remember? You don't know about two-slit experiment. It's was done by Young, scientist named Young, and it was also done by Einstein with his 2 other colleagues from Princeton. And it basically, when they shine the light they were not sure, because if you, like as a single slit, and you bombard particles, say bullets, right, as particles, and you have a screen at the other end, it will create another slit at the end, because there is a tiny slit, you bombarding the bullets, and it hits the screen, and there is a vertical slit. But the same slit you submerge in the water and create the water waves. Now there are 2 slits instead of 1. So the water comes out, and the water has no particle nature, they have waves. So the wave from each slit, the wave comes out this way. So that's called diffraction. It differs, like, right? The same happens in another slit. So the 2 waves from both the slits, they interact. And wherever they interact, they will create the pattern on that screen. So that's a wave pattern. So it's a broad pattern, not just single slit. So now they did try to do the same thing with the light. When they kept the 1 slit, yes, light came out and had a single appearance right at the end. But when they put 2 slits, it diverged. It became a wave. Now you think that the light is made out of the photons, the energy. So you think they are particles or a wave. The wave is an energy. Energy has waves. But particles are solid. They don't have waves. So the particles are not supposed to create the wavy pattern. But it does. And it gets even more weird. When you look at it, it behaves like a particle. When you walk away and don't observe it, it behaves like a wave. How does the electrons and the photons know that you are observing? It's so bizarre and so weird. So that 2-slit experiment showed that there is something weird at the very basic quantum level. Quanta are the basic packets of energy. That's why it's called quantum physics. So in this physics, there is a reversibility, E equal to mc square. Energy and a mass can get converted. They're at the verge of that transitory zone, the twilight zone they call. At that level, energy and matter really starts interchanging with each other very easily, right? And That's why, and the places are so tiny, atom is so tiny, that the smaller it is, the more unpredictable it becomes. So now, for example, if you have a slit, and the light comes out through that, right? And the slit is, say, very wide, and you throw the light source, they found out the light will hit the screen at, say, a certain level. It will become this much. But you make the slit tiny, then the light disperses, right? So the tinier the slit, now if you have electrons that you're firing through a big slit, it just goes straight. So the predictability of where you can find the electron is very good. You can easily find out, say, okay, it will be within this range. But if you make the slit smaller, the predictability becomes less, because it can be from anywhere from here to here. The variability is so high from such a big distance. The electron, that one particular electron that you fire, could be anywhere. So the probability of finding the electron at one particular spot becomes less. So the smaller the slit, the more unpredictable it becomes. Now we're talking about atom. In atom, you cannot find the particle where you will find the electron. It's impossible. That's why the Heisenberg uncertainty principle is the main principle of quantum physics. So now I can predict Chirag will be coming to see me at 8:30, almost 8:30. It might little bit unpredictable.
Maybe, inshallah.
Okay, 8:30 to 9.
For next Sunday.
So that's a little bit unpredictability. But you're talking about a smaller frame, the unpredictability becomes so big. So they have given up. The scientist says we cannot do this anymore. So in fact, they have said that when you observe and a particle is being probably created for you at the time when you are observing. Before, if you don't observe, it never was. It was in a wave form, just in the energy form. Just because you are observing, the particle is being created. So the particle is matter, matter is us. So the presence, because the thing is that when you want to do the observation of a part of that two-slit experiment, for observation you have to throw light. Now the light has photons, it has energy. That interaction of that energy with whatever you're dealing with, the photons, the quantums that's coming out, it gets affected because they're talking about a very tiny level. Now you and I, because we have a big mass, we don't get affected by the light so much. But at the tiny level, even the light interferes with the observations. So the presence of the light for us to observe causes the change of results. So as soon as the light is thrown on it, it turns into a particle. If the light is not thrown, we think. Now again, we cannot tell. Now that's the oxymoron, right? So when you look at it, but to look at it you need the light, it turns into a particle. What is happening when nobody's watching? We don't know. How can you know? There is no way you can know. That's the realm of consciousness. You cannot know. You just have to feel. That's not something to know. Beyond that, the secret will be always remain as a secret. So there is another experiment they call cat in a box. They have I don't know exactly how it was set up, but basically there was something they had set up, an apparatus that will throw the cat and the cat will jump out of the thing like that. So but without doing that, what the cat will be doing inside the box, you cannot tell whether it's jumping or not, like that. So it was that kind of uncertainty, because our basic instruments needed to observe the experiment itself is affecting the experiment, right? So there is no way you can predict the outcome, because your outcome is affected by your presence by itself. So you cannot have a totally unbiased results of an experiment.
You have to hire a robot.
No, but the robot also, will be able to, because even for robot to perceive, we need 5 senses. So robot also would be infrared cameras or whatever camera, but you have to throw something on that experiment to perceive it. But that gets changed.
But that's the confusing part, right? I mean, you need some external forces to create that wave.
Right. Not create the wave, to observe what happens. Right? Whether when you observe it, it turns into particles. But when you're not observing, it's staying as a wave, and the wave pattern is created. But what is happening inside, supposing you go inside the atom and you want to look at the electron. As soon as you want to see the electron, you throw the light on it, you see the electron as a particle. But when you're not throwing the light on it, what happens?
It's a component of waves after all,
Agreed.
right? Okay.
It is. It will be staying as a wave. But I'm just saying that maybe the particle is being created because the creativity is there. The consciousness is able to create the particle at your demand. When you see it, it's there.
Right.
But when you're not there, is the consciousness creating particles on its own? We don't know. There is no way we can know. That's what I'm saying. It's like a oxymoron. So that's why they describe atom as a fuzz now. Atoms are not described as particles anymore. So that particulate nature is all thrown out. But our concept is that they always are solid particles. So that's why. So that's where all this confusion really comes out. And. Now, what happens is the theory of relativity throughout the concepts of past, present and future also. Because the relativity is basically motion of one object against the other. Like we said, the time is our creation, is in our mind. Because it's rotation of the earth against the sun. The sun is fixed, the earth is rotating, and the X amount of time it takes, so we think that there is X amount of time took place. Now the time is the same for all of us because we all are traveling at the same time. But if you're in a certain galaxy sitting outside, what does he care? If somebody is in that galaxy, they don't care about this time. So the time is different for everyone. If we all are moving at the same time, then we have the same time. But we all move at the different time, a different speed and different place, then our time is totally different. So the time is a relative thing. So if the time is relative, what is past and what is present and what is future? There is no past, there is no present, there is no future. These are all the concepts very heavily ridden into our minds. So much. That's why Einstein says that if you travel in the space at, say, 186,000 miles a second, it's a theoretical experiment. You cannot do it, but they did it. You come back in, say, 7 hours, he calculated, the people on the earth would have aged about 500 years. The civilization would have gone. 7 years equal to 500 years.
Yeah, based on that calculation, maybe on some other galaxy, or if the aliens have very nice telescope,
Right.
They may see in the Ramayana and Mahabharata.
They can, yeah. Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, if you just calculate the time and space.
Right. Exactly. They may be watching Ramayana Mahabharata right now.
Exactly, yeah.
And they may have their own Krishna being born over there too. So it's all
I
spooky.
tell you, generally when you talk about consciousness, I was listening to somebody. Consciousness can store every event which has happened, and it can really retrieve it at its will.
Exactly. But that's what Dr.
Every event which has taken place.
Right. Suraj Rao, when he was giving talk, he says Chitragupt. That is Chitragupt. Chitragupt ka chopra wahi hai. That's what it is.
Let me just finish. So it's not just what is going to be in future. They can go back in past also and visualize slide by slide.
Right. Yeah, these are all slides. Everything that event takes place is a slide, and then it's held in the memory of the
And people
of the
have
mind.
invented mantras to do that.
Right.
That can take you to a particular event and
Right.
you can visualize as if it's happening now.
Wow.
So it should be the same thing what you are telling.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the time frames are very relative. The time frame that we're talking about is, for us, it's all the same thing because we are living in the same space area and we are traveling with the earth at the same time. So for us, the time doesn't really change. But unless we start changing our speed, then the things change, So past, present and future is all relative. And that again, Vishuddha Chakra teaches us the same thing. By doing meditation,
Yeah.
you reach it to the Vishuddha Chakra. What does it touch you? So forget about the anxieties of the future, regrets of the past, attachment to the present. Why attach to the present? Because present is going to become past anyway. So why stay attached? Instead of that, it's better to attach to the change continuously that's taking place and enjoy. Like this. 2 days later, I saw we have a picture of another flower that gives us such a beautiful fragrance. And 2 days ago, it was an amazing fragrance it was giving out. Now it's dying down. So again, everything happens momentarily. These flowers will go, another flowers will come, and then we'll have different mechanisms. And it's a perpetual change that is taking place all the time. And that's the reality.
Srushti sthiti lay.
Right. So, so they say the time frames are relatives. I have one, you have one, and the planet in some galaxy has a different one also. So everybody has different times of frames. So, and the another strange thing in the quantum physics is we had talked about is the entangled particles, where there is an instantaneous connection. And see, if you really pay attention, everything is pointing to the description of God that we have in our scriptures. It's nothing. Quantum physics is nothing but religion, basically teaching us all the facts that were already noticed by our ancient rishis. So they say there is entangled particles. So we talked about it once in one of the lectures, where these particles are created simultaneously. They behave exactly the same as each other. So if they are separated, say 2 feet, 20 feet, 2 miles, or 20,000 miles, it doesn't matter. If one particle goes up, the another will go up too. That's why they call entangled particles. Now, how the one particle knows that the other particle is going to go up? If you move this one down, that will move down too. Even though they are separated by thousands of miles. And they did it with atomic clock. Now, physically, they actually did the experiment. And the atomic clock, they used the time of fraction of a second, right? And they separated, say, 200 meters or something like that. And they calculated when they moved the particle, say for a fraction of a second, in that much time, even if the message was to be sent from one particle to another, that okay, I'm moving up, you also move up. The distance, the fastest way to communicate in this universe is the light, 186,000 miles a second. So they calculated that even if that was the case, the light probably would be able to move only 3 feet. Because they did it with atomic clocks. So they knew exactly that this experiment lasted only 10 raised to minus 24 seconds or whatever. I mean, that's there. Whatever. So during that time, the light could have traveled no more than 3 feet. But this was separated at 200 feet. And yet, predictably, entangled particles move exactly the way each other move. You know, that's like unwritten rule. That's how it happens. Same thing, they have particle and antiparticle. One particle goes up, the another one will go down. The antiparticles also behave predictably, at least. So what is the connection? There is like instant connection. Same thing, consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere. It connects everything. It knows everything. It's sarvada, sarvabhuta. It's everywhere, omnipotent, omnipresent. Right?
It's in the rhythm, not in the organized, well organized, but in highly...
Yeah, it's some strange. And now they have realized that there is some matter that, because in the universe, whatever is the visible is only 4%. Because they calculated the amount of energy that is present in the universe, and they calculated the amount of matter that is present. That includes all the galaxies, millions of galaxies and all those things. And they converted mass into energy. That's only 4%. That explains only 4% of the energy that is present in the universe. So then they found out there is something called dark matter.
Rest is dark matter.
Right, dark matter. The dark matter, they calculated there's a matter which cannot be perceived by our regular instruments. So that still, they account for 21%. So total 25%. Still 75% of the energy is missing. And it's there. They know, but they cannot perceive it. They call it dark energy. And that dark energy is doing mysterious things. Because in the beginning, they thought that the universe is static. This is the way it is. But then they found out that the galaxies are receding. They're speeding away from each other, right? So they thought that maybe it is the power of Big Bang. And that power, there is a certain amount of energy that was present, is expanded the universe, and at some point, that energy is going to run out, and the gravitational force is going to bring all the galaxies back together. They call it Big Crunch instead of Big Bang. And Big Crunch will again go to a single point, all the energy will... That was the theory. But now, even that theory is gone. Because they realized that the distant galaxies are going even farther at a faster speed than the central galaxy that is nearby. So they could not figure out why. So now they have theory that this dark energy that is present is continuously giving out the energy that's pushing all these galaxies away. Now, if you think that Big Bang theory and the Big Crunch theory is correct, think again. Because if you think the consciousness with its infinite energy and infinite potential created the universe, why should it run out?
I mean, that's two separate groups, like Jan Narlikar type of our Indian scientist, and he believes there is no Big Bang theory type of.
Right,
There is
right.
a different concept.
Right,
Big
but
Bang
now it
not
is accepted.
true,
Narlikar is several years old now.
Yeah, yeah.
But now it is well accepted. The Big Bang took place.
No, but he said like what happened to generate that Big Bang, and nobody has an answer.
No, nobody knows. The thing is that there is something...
I mean, they start from the Big Bang. I mean,
Right.
not before that. They don't want to think before that.
Not even Big Bang.
Yes.
Not even Big Bang. They cannot go to Big Bang level. The problem is they have something called Planck's constant. And they have calculated it. They have calculated to the point that 10 raised to minus 66 or something is the Planck's constant. That's the amount of distance that it can calculate up to. And the time is like 3 minutes or something like that after the Big Bang. Up until that point, they have figured out everything. Beyond that, there is no way they can figure it out. Agree? No question about it. I mean, that's what I said. Mysteries of consciousness will always stay as mysteries. We're not going to be able to figure it out. But what I'm saying is, even the Big Bang theory has its own problems. Not for the creation, but they're predicting that all the galaxies are going to scrunch down into a big crunch, and it's going to go all together, and everything is going to disappear. But looks like that's not the case. The dark energy, there's so much dark energy present, that it's going to keep on expanding. And they say it will just keep on expanding forever. Because the consciousness has infinite energy. That's the whole concept of infinite. Because if you think that the big crunch is going to take place because eventually it's going to run out of the energy, that's a false concept, right? And that's what our Rishi says, that consciousness, God is infinite, has infinite power, infinite energy, infinite dimensions, so it can expand forever. There is nothing to say that I'm going to start shrinking back. I'm just saying, so. So a lot of interesting things about the quantum things.